Demon at my window. Posted by u/40alcrook. I apologize in advance for the horrible writing and the bad spelling. Many years ago, must have been around 2003 or the year 2004, I was about 13 years old. I frequently took 2-month vacation trips during school breaks to Mexico to visit my grandmother in her farm. It is a beautiful ranch with large open fields, a large canal, and the closest neighbors would be around a mile away. It was Semana Santa or Holy Week, which is the week in which Jesus Christ resurrects. My grandmother asks me to accompany her to church that afternoon, talking about washing Christ's feet, and my stubborn 13-year-old as declined. She seemed bothered and off she went with my cousin, walking away down the long dirt road. Hours passed, the sun went down. I went outside, checked on the cattle, pigs, goats, the pack of dogs we had, and just walked back into the house, locked the giant metal front door, and walked into the living room, sat down. I remember I was watching Big Brother on the TV. I was living the life, man. I remember being very comfortable on a giant sofa couch. Suddenly I heard a knock on a large window leading to a small garden my grandmother had filled with many roses and small trees with long thorns in it. It was hard to maintain since there was no way of getting in there. It just grew wildly but looked nice. I peeked into the garden with large black window bars and nothing was there. I dismissed it, and a minute later they knocked again and I ignored it, thinking it was a thorn hitting the window, and then it happened again. As I reached to open the curtain I got goosebumps and I pushed the curtain aside and froze. It had white eyes with only red pupils in the center, 3 scars on each side of the face, skin as pink as a pig's, and hair so dark I could swear it was wet/damp. It looked at me as if studying me, like if it knew I couldn't move. As it began to take his large snake-like tongue out of his mouth, I snapped out of it and ran towards my room, closed the door, locked it, jumped on my bed, turned my radio on to maximum volume and pretended it was just my imagination. As the music went on I could hear it pulling on my room's small window bars, screaming/screeching like a pig before the slaughter, and I passed out. Hours later I woke up to a banging on my room's door. Weird. I got up feeling like it was someone familiar, and I unlocked the door, ran to the front door, opened the door, and my grandmother was about to knock on it while holding my sleeping cousin in her arms. As she was carrying my cousin into my room I was talking to her about what happened. As she placed him on the bed she told me to shut up. She woke up my cousin and told us to pray. Confused I prayed with her, and she told me to take a look at the wall next to my bed. There it was, an imprint of its face on a brick wall, as if you push your face on Play-Doh to leave an imprint. The next day a priest came to the farm, blessed the home where it happened, and with respect covered up the imprint. My grandmother never mentioned the incident again or asked me to go to church with her, but the demon at my window I will never forget. The reason I quit my job at the airport. Posted by u/.asking. I started my new job at Will Rogers Airport. I say new job, but I was really just moved to a different airline and working in the same ramp agent position. Now, I have to tell you that I have a crippling fear of heights, and my least favorite part of being a ramp agent is when I have to climb in the cargo bin on a rear loading plane because it's about 20 feet above the ground. This particular night was a strange mix of a few factors creating an uneasy feeling. The first ambient setting condition is it was raining, not just light raining but pouring rain with a few scattered lightning flashes and random power surges. Every now and then we have dead bodies transported in the cargo bins. This was one of those occasions, and tonight was my lucky night apparently, because my manager told me I was throwing this plane. Throwing meaning I was pulling the cargo out of the bin. It was the last plane for the night and wasn't very much cargo beside the body. My coworker John pulled the ramp loader to the plane and raised it up so I could walk up the conveyor belt to enter the bin. About 4 other co-workers come over with a baggage tug for the cargo. I say to everyone in a louder than normal tone because the rain was loudly smacking the metal shell of the airplane, I hope y'all are ready. I'm not trying to be in there all night. John laughed and said, don't worry about it. Maybe you can make a new friend in there, in reference to the body. I didn't think it was funny, but I chuckled and told him to shut up and let's get going. I climbed into the small and cramped space and sat in the bin as far from this human-sized white cardboard box as I could, and pulled my phone out of my pocket to select a playlist to listen to while I throw the bin. I find a good one and I start working. The conveyor belt moves at a snail's pace and you have to wait until they scan each individual package, so I can't just throw them as fast as I want to get out of there. About 10 minutes into it I'm getting closer and closer to this box and my music stops playing. I've had earbuds that short out when they get wet, so in the front of my mind I automatically assume that rain somehow got on and I just needed to shake a little water out of them. But they were bone dry. I checked Spotify to see if it was a glitch or problem with the app and I see I have an unread text. Did I get a notification and forgot in the midst of my rap-fueled baggage handling? The way my phone is set up, when I get a message it will tell you who it is from, but it won't display the message. You have to access them to read it. The message was from an unknown number, which was odd because very few people have my number to begin with. I clicked the notification to read the message and all it said was, "Hi." I send a text back saying, "Oh hey, who is this?" My phone displayed that whoever sent the message saw mine immediately after it sent. I waited and no response. I started my playlist back up and got back to my job. Shortly after, a crash of thunder that was so loud the plane shook made me jump at first, but I quickly rationalized it and returned to work. I noticed the conveyor belt was no longer moving. I yelled to John, "What the hell is going on out there? Why did it stop?" John replied, "Damn thing ran out of gas. We're going to take this load of cargo to drop off while we get another loader over here." Sit pat. I think to myself, where TFL am I going to go? About 1 minute later it got cold, like I could see my breath cold. I wrote it off as just a cold front and reach over for some stranger's luggage to lean on while I wait. As I look over for a bag to grab, lighting went across the sky and I saw a quick flash of a little boy 11 maybe 12 years old sitting on the white box, staring at me with this eerily happy smile and his head turned slightly to the side. My heart sunk and I froze, never taking my eyes off that box for what felt like hours. I was startled by the replacement conveyor belt starting up right next to the plane. I darted to the moving conveyor, crawling as fast as I could, trying to keep my balance and panic at the same time. I hit the ground and looked at John and said, "Nope, I'm done. You're going to have to go in there." I didn't want to explain exactly what I saw, but John knew something scared me shitless. He asked me what's wrong. "Who is it?" I stuttered and walked away before I could say anything. Then I got a new text message notification that I heard loud and clear this time, a response from the unknown sender saying, "It's your new friend. The Revenge." Posted by u/fewestbassoon221. Disclaimer: this incident is not experienced by me, but many people that I know experienced it, so I thought I should share it. My grandparents live in a village which has been there for around 200 years. We actually have a big house, more like a small castle, which was made around the time when the village was established by my ancestor. He used to work under the king at that time. It is around 10 kilometers away from the city where I live with my parents right now. This incident was experienced by my grandpa when he was around 17 to 18 years old. He said that it started first at their house when one day the kitchen suddenly caught fire. Luckily people saw it early and hence it was extinguished. Everyone thought that it was by someone's mistake. But then around 2 to 3 days later, when my grandpa and his elder sister were sitting in the room and suddenly a small carpet on the floor started burning, even thought there was nothing there which could have caused it. They both extinguished the fire but were terrified by that. The weird thing was that it didn't just happen at our house, it started happening in the other houses as well. After a few days, one night my grandpa's sister was walking on the terrace. She used to walk for some time after having dinner. She suddenly fell on the terrace itself. She suffered some bruises. She told my grandpa that it felt like as if someone pushed her. The burning of different things still continued every few days in different houses. We had an oak tree outside the house and it was really big. One evening when my grandpa was sitting outside his room, it was on the second floor and had an open area outside, he felt as if someone was watching him. He turned his head towards the oak tree and a chill went down his spine. He saw a man was sitting on the tree and was watching him constantly with an evil grin on his face, but it was just the start. Suddenly his eyes went all white and his grin started growing bigger to an inhuman extent. My grandpa couldn't move or shout, he was frozen, so he just closed his eyes and prayed. When he opened his eyes, that man was not there, but the part of the tree branch looked like as if it was burnt. But it was such a terrifying incident. Alien? Goblin? Ghost? Posted by u/girl from Mars. So growing up I have had a lot of paranormal stuff happen to my family and we move a lot. But in every house we have lived in, we all have had strange paranormal encounters, so this has pretty much been my whole life. One time, we moved onto this property that was straight up in the middle of nowhere and it was on a small farm. Our landlords were these two old people who lived on the property with us. And in their backyard they had a small playground thing set up for their grandson, but they would let my sister and I play there. There was a small jungle gym and this huge seesaw. Mind you, I am South African so I don't really know what they're called in other countries. Anyways, my sister was probably 10 and I was 9. One day her and I decided to go and play on the seesaw. Which was all fine until I caught sight of this strange looking creature that was sitting in a tree a few feet away from my sister and I. This thing had large dark eyes, long ears and a fat round body. I assumed it was some kind of animal until it started waving at my sister and I kept watching it and soon its wave turned into a hand gesture, showing me to go to it. I kept staring at it and the longer I did, the more scared I became. I even tried showing my sister while staying away from it, but she said she couldn't see it. I watched it for a few minutes, its eyes just staring at the both of us without blinking and it using its hand to call us over. I began to get this uneasy feeling as this thing began to stand up in the tree, revealing its bony, long legs and a smile like the Cheshire Cat. I will admit, This thing looked like some kind of freaky goblin, but as it stood up, I grabbed my sister's hand and ran back to our house with her. I know some of you are thinking that I probably imagined it or that it could have been some kind of squirrel, but where we lived, there were barely any trees, and plus you don't get many squirrels in South Africa. When I got home, I told my parents about everything, and this thing was so clear in my mind that I even drew it for them and showed them. I can remember how it looked to this day.
Thanks for watching. Please do like, share, comment and subscribe for more videos.